Good afternoon. This is the Outdoor Artist. It's early December here in upstate New York, and you can see I've got a section of oak logs here that I'm preparing for shingles, and I'll show you that operation in a minute, but I wanted to give you a sense of the site. Up above you can see the tree that had some damage at the bottom, which is the reason I took it down, but it was about an 80-year-old oak, and it produced 30 or so of these billets that I'll cut up. I've cut them into 15-inch lengths for my shingles. And just one thing I want to point out here, if you look at my golf cart, you'll see I've got a little ramp on the back, and I'd encourage you, if you're hefting things of this size, to get yourself a ramp or something like that and avoid as much as possible lifting these heavy objects, because this puts a lot of strain on the spine that's unnecessary. I read a book one time about moving big rocks, and the first sentence in the book was to say the first rule of moving big rocks or big anything is don't lift it. Roll it, slide it, do something else, but don't lift it. So this is I took that to heart, and so I've made this little ramp, and it's a whole lot easier to get it not only on but off of the cart using that simple little ramp. So from here we'll go on down to the splitting operation. Here we are at the splitting operation, and you'll see that that ramp just happened to be the right length and the right height, so I can simply roll these logs off onto the platform, the working platform here of the log splitter. And what I'm going to be doing first is I'll take this log and I'll split it into eighths, and then those eighths I'll then take inside and work those down into the shingle size using the froe, and I'll show you that operation here shortly. I'm not going to bore you with the actual operation of the wood splitter. You can catch that on a lot of different channels on YouTube, I'm sure, but basically it's a simple wood splitter. Most of the time you're doing this, what you're doing is simply cutting the firewood up and putting it in a wood pile like behind us. In this particular case, there's one additional step, and that is after I cut it into eighths, I'll also use the wood splitter to remove this outer layer of active bark, and that is because that's not very good wood in terms of its preservative quality. Really what you want is this center heartwood here that's will last a long time. These shingles, if properly applied and prepared, should last for maybe 20 or 25 years. I've also laid out a couple key things here. One is a simple pair of safety glasses and hearing protection. Anytime you're using equipment like this, I probably should put down a glove too. Using equipment like this, go ahead and get yourself the appropriate safety equipment. I've got steel-toed shoes on also, and anytime you're working in an operation like this, you want the steel-toed shoes, because if something of that size falls on your foot, it's not going to be pretty. But with steel-toed shoes, it's not a big deal. The only thing else I'll point out about these safety glasses, you'll notice the tint is yellow, and I do that specifically. I've got a couple different pairs. They're very inexpensive, by the way, to protect your eyes. The yellow I like for cloudy days because it makes everything bright. Picked that tip up a long time ago when I used to bicycle a lot on inclement weather. It makes everything seem brighter. So I'll go ahead and cut these up into eighths, and then I'll take you inside and show you the next operation as we proceed toward making these into shingles. I should point out, as long as we're right here, that this is an update also on this covered wood pile that I had introduced last year as Baby Bear. The more I work on it, the more I realize I think this one might be called Big Bear. 4.5 cords is a lot of wood, but basically what I'm doing for the superstructure is building this lattice work, and then the shingles will simply fit on the way up here. It'll make an 8-sided lid, if you will, for the wood pile with a ventilation at the top. So I've got a few of those sections done, at least as it relates to this lattice, and I'll finish that up here over the next few weeks. Okay, I'll finish this up here in terms of making this into eighths, and then I will meet you inside. We're at the staging operation here now, and you can see that the billets have been cut. I believe I said 1/8, but I should have said 1/16. Misspoke. And you can see the billets have been cut to 1/16, and the bark has been shaved off the outside, so you end up with a pretty clean looking billet to work with in the shingle making operation, which I'll show you next. This is the operation where I'm making the actual shingles. You can see it's quite fancy. 2 buckets, my boat seat which swivels, has a nice cushion, a nice back, set on the back. Here is the billet the section that I brought from the outside, and then by using this tool called a froe, which is simply put on top of the billet like so, and then banged with this fancy maul that looks like Fred Flintstone originally made it. But this is really what you need because it goes through a lot of wear and tear. They do sell mallets, but just be careful what you're getting because most of them are Fisher-Price looking type things. No disrespect to Fisher-Price, but those Fisher-Price and mallet for this kind of operation should not be put into the same sentence. You need most people just make their own, which is what I did here. That's just a piece of maple that I turned the handle on the lathe and then just left the rest rough, and that works actually pretty well. And so once you get done splitting this multiple times, you end up with the rough shingle, which is here, and you can see that is only maybe 1/4 of an inch wide or so. It's about 15 inches long. By the time we get to the other end on this one, it's tapered down to almost nothing. Before I put that on the roof, you'll see that I'll clean up that side, both sides, probably trim the end off a little bit. In some cases they get a little warped. This one is a little bit warped, so I'll do some flattening to try to get it as good as I can, but I have to be careful about how much time I spend on each one because I need about 1,500 of these in order to finish the project. So I've got to get to stepping on that. And these are triple overlaid so that the rain runs off and snow and whatnot and keeps it off the wood. So that is the entire operation from the forest to the final product, and I'm the outdoor artist signing off.